So the Cup Series race at Darlington this past Sunday ended in very dramatic fashion with bent fenders and hurt feelings. Obviously, I'm talking about Tyler Reddick and Chris Buescher, who ended up getting together in the final 10 laps of the race, and due to the damage both of them sustained, neither of them wound up winning. This, of course, boiled over in a confrontation between both drivers after the race, which I decided to cover in a separate video as there was quite a bit to unpack here, a little too much. So, the incident started with, I believe, 7-8 laps to go in the race. I don't know when exactly, but it was within the final 10 laps. So, Chris Buescher is leading after making an amazing 3-wide pass a couple laps earlier on both Reddick and Keselowski after the two of them just doored each other a little too much off of turn 4. So after that, Buescher got the lead. This happened a couple laps earlier, but Reddick was quickly catching up to him to the point that he was within striking distance of the lead with 10 laps to go. And then just a few laps later, Reddick makes his move, sending it into turn 3 on the bottom, trying to make a slide job on Buescher. It doesn't work. He doesn't clear him. And this ends with Reddick making contact with Buescher, putting the 17 into the wall and giving his 45 car a massive tire rub. This tire rub eventually causes Reddick to fall out of contention for the win and forcing him to pit. And then just one lap later, or half a lap later, I don't recall exactly when, but shortly after, Buescher came down to pit road as well due to the damage, also giving him a tire rub. Keselowski, who was behind them in third, ended up taking the lead and went on to win the race. And as soon as Chris Buescher climbed out of his car, he went straight to Reddick's face and let him have it. And I'm gonna say this now, I have never seen Chris Buescher so furious like that. The guy's usually a pretty chill and low-key dude, but man, he just exploded at Reddick. Like, he did not even let Reddick take his helmet off. The moment he climbed out of his car, Buescher just went straight at Reddick. He didn't even give him time to take off his helmet. I knew, the moment Buescher got put in the wall, I knew he was going to confront him after the race. But I didn't know. I thought they were going to exchange some words. I didn't expect some pushing and shoving happen. I mean, the guy even put his hand out the window to show his displeasure the moment it happened, right after Reddick put him in the wall. You saw his hand out the window like, dude, why do you do that? He was clearly pissed off. And in my opinion, I 100% see where Buescher is coming from. Like, let's make one thing clear, first of all. That move Tyler Reddick made, it was not a dirty move. Let's get that out of the way first. What Tyler Reddick did was not a dirty move, and he was overly apologetic about it too. His intention was to win the race, not to screw over a fellow competitor. With that being said, and this is where I'm more on Buescher's side on this situation, that's a move you make on the last lap. Not with 8 laps to go and you having the faster car to try and still make something happen without going full send. So all in all, Reddick's move was not dirty, but it was overly aggressive and unnecessary given how it was in the last lap yet. Now, do I hate Tyler Reddick for what he did? Of course not. If anything, this is just a display of how much the guy wants to win and how competitive he is. His aggression on the track reminds me a little bit of Kyle Larson. And Larson and Reddick have a lot of similarities in terms of racing background, driving style, racecraft. I mean, the only driver that can even challenge Larson when it comes to ripping the outside lane is Reddick. He is, in my opinion, the second most entertaining driver to watch in NASCAR behind Larson. And what he did today does not change that. It does not change anything. If anything, it made the race more exciting, have a more exciting finish, which, you know, you can thank Reddick for that, whether you're a fan or a hater. But of course, Reddick being cut from the same cloth as Larson is a curse about as much as it is a blessing, as he tends to overdrive his car in an effort to try and get the most out of it, occasionally ending with disastrous results. Not just for him, but also for his fellow competitors as well at certain times, as was the case on Sunday with Buescher. Now, while I side with Chris Buescher in this instance, it's not like I do 100% think he was in the right, because some of the things he said, and now that I stop and think about it, I realize I do not fully agree with him. So, if you recall how Chris Buescher got into Reddick's face immediately after getting out of his car, well, in between him shouting and shoving and Reddick apologizing, Buescher, he said something along the lines of, "You have a sticker and I don't." Clearly talking about the sticker you put in your car in victory lane after you win a race. He is clearly referencing the fact that Reddick has a win at Talladega a couple of weeks ago, and Buescher still doesn't. Although he came pretty close to winning at Kansas last week, but he missed out by the slimmest of margins. And personally, this is why I feel Buescher was really furious. It wasn't at Reddick in particular, even though his anger was directed at him, and for good reason, because it was Reddick who, put him in the wall and screwed him out of the race, of a race win for the second consecutive week. But I feel like in this particular moment, Buescher was more furious at the fact that he's had 2 potential wins taken away from him back to back. And he was just, taking his anger out on Reddick because, him screwing him over on the final 10 laps just made him an easy target. And because of that, I feel that's what probably caused him to say stuff in his interview that implies that Reddick should have cut him some slack because I'm not in the playoffs yet. Like, dude, you cannot use that to help your case. Every driver, while they may have different agendas, they have the same job as you on the track. And that is to win. Whether they are already in the playoffs or not, it doesn't matter. Because look at it this way. Chris Buescher, he may be fighting for a playoff spot right now, yes. But Reddick was fighting for playoff points and playoff seeding. So it's not like Reddick was fighting for something meaningless. He may have had a different agenda than Buescher, but he had a good reason to be fighting for the win all the same. And, I'm going to go a bit off topic here. But a similar situation happened with Anthony Alfredo at the Xfinity race at Talladega a couple weeks ago. If you recall, many fans criticized Anthony Alfredo for not pushing Brennan Poole to what would have potentially been Brennan Poole's first career win, and it would have made for a great story, redemption from 2016. If you remember, Brennan Poole was even running a throwback paint scheme for that race. And, instead of working together to get the win away from who was the leader and eventual winner, Jesse Love, Alfredo instead decided to went to his outside and try and pass Poole for position, which he eventually did. But think about it from Alfredo's perspective. He was, and still is, in the playoff bubble. So it will not have been in his best interest to push Brennan Poole for the win. As Poole was, and he still is, below the cut line. So Brennan Poole winning would have made it much harder for Alfredo to point his way into the playoffs, especially considering that he is driving for a smaller team in our motorsports, and it is very hard as it is already for smaller teams like RSS Racing and Jeremy Clements Motorsports. It is very hard for the smaller Xfinity teams to get into the playoffs when they're competing against the likes of Junior Motorsports, Joe Gibbs Racing, Richard Childress, Stuart Haas, Colleague, those teams that have that are basically Xfinity, that are basically, they have Cup Series support. They are Cup Series, they're affiliated with Cup Series teams. This applies to Tyler Reddick as well in this situation, like the same mentality. It's not in his best interest to lay back and give Chris Buescher the win, because Chris Buescher locking himself in the playoffs means another competitor that Tyler Reddick is going to have to worry about come playoff time. Not to mention, that's 5 valuable playoff points going to Chris Buescher that could have gone to Tyler Reddick. So in conclusion, because I went a little bit off topic there towards the end, I'm in the middle and I'm gonna stay neutral as I usually am when it comes to this stuff. I don't feel like neither driver was in the wrong necessarily, because I understand both sides. I see Reddick's side of the story. But if you force me to pick a side, I would side with Chris Buescher. Even if I disagree with Buescher's comments of he should have cut me some slack right there. Again, like I said, Tyler Reddick could have waited until the last lap to make his full send move. So because of that, I side with Buescher in this situation. But it's not like I fully side with him, because like I said, I disagree with Chris Buescher, his mentality of, I'm in the playoffs, he should have cut me some slack. That's like a bit of a victim mentality that I'm not a big fan of. But yeah, we'll leave it at that.